Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekah Kadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Shalom, shalom. Now, you got Esau and you got Jacob. Now, both of them was given a blessing. That's confirmed in Hebrews 11 and 20, where Isaac gave Esau a blessing and he gave Jacob a blessing. Now, Esau's blessing was the sword. In Genesis 27, 38 through 40, it talks about Esau being blessed with the sword. And it said, he shall live by the sword. Now, when you go to Matthew 26 and 52, when Peter chopped off the guy's ear, Yahushua, who they ignorantly called Jesus Christ, he told him, whoever pretty much lived by the sword would die by the sword. And so, when you look at how Esau's blessing is, you get an understanding. Then we go to Revelation 6 and 4. It talks about Esau being given a great sword. Revelation 6 and 4 says he was given a great sword to take peace from the earth and pretty much cause death. Okay, so then you have not only that, you have Habakkuk. Now Habakkuk talks about not only is these Edomites the main person with a sword, the murderer, like John 8 and 44 says, not only are they the murderer, it describes how Habakkuk, how he described Esau is a major situation in that. Now let's get right to the point. He said in verse 4 that his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him. In verse 5 he said he is a proud man. And it says, neither keepeth at home, who enlarge his desire as hell and is as death. So Esau is a representation of the grave, which is hell, and is as death. And so when you go to 1 Corinthians 15 and 55, it says, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? You see? So, that is a dark saying where death, or Esau represents death. Now, Esau also, when you go to Job, now Job was written in the land of Uz. And so when you go to Job 10 and 21, in verse 22, it gives you an understanding. It say, before I go whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death. So Job was in the land of the Edomites, and they represent darkness. They represent the opposite of light, because they the man of sin. That's why Yahushua, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ, say they hate the light because they love darkness. And then in verse 22 it say, and a land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death, without any order, and where the light is as darkness. So in the land of the Edomites, which is America and the EU, they push darkness. They push a bunch of lies. See, they push going against God's commandments and going against God and his people. You see, I think Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1, it says in verse 79, it say, to give light to them that sit in darkness. So let me start that verse over. Luke chapter 1 verse 79, it say, to give light to them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. So this shadow of death is always through the scriptures, and when you go precept upon precept, you understand that these Edomites is a major situation. See, they are as death, because this the worst of the heathen, and they always was the leader of the heathen against us. We was fighting with them in the womb. And so when we don't obey our power, then you have the worst of the heathen there to either put us in captivity or put us to death. See, that's why when you go to Psalms, let's get that. I haven't used this precept in a while. Psalms chapter 13. No, Psalm 17, verse 13. It say, oh, arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked. See, that's the Edomites. Which is thy sword. See, they are the sword of the Lord. He uses them as his sword. So that's why they are death. That's why they represent death and hell. And so, and they represent darkness too. And when you go to Revelation, it talks about death and hell is cast into the lake of fire. See, because it's not going to be no Edomites after this kingdom. Ain't going to be no Edomites there to be the sword of the Lord, because he's going to put his laws into our minds so we can obey him. Now let's see what 1 Peter 2:9 say. He took us out of darkness and brought us to his marvelous light. See, he took us from the believing the lies of Esau and coming into the light, where we do as Isaiah 8:20 say, to the law and to the testimony. If they don't speak according to this word, there's no light in them. See, we go by his words now. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. We don't listen to Esau in his darkness. When you go to Isaiah 60, verse 1, verse 2, it say, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. See, that's because the Esau this is his rulership. His rulership is full of darkness. Hosea chapter 4 verse 1 tell you, is no knowledge of God in the land. Is no truth in the land. Because Esau is ruling, and this is his land of darkness. He's the shadow of death. He is as death, because the shadow is a resemblance of something. It's a close resemblance of something. So Esau is the shadow of death, and he is death and hell, the grave, the sword of the Lord, the punisher of the Lord. And that movie goes good with Esau. But I'm going to leave it there. All praises to Yahweh Hashem Shah, Ba'ashem Rekakadash. Shalom.